Hi there, it's Jen, and thanks for joining me today. Today I'm creating several cards using these 6x8 stencils by scrapbook.com, and these are brand new for scrapbook.com. They just came out with these. There are 5 stencils, and these are a 6x8 size, so they would be great for doing 2 cards at once or 2 backgrounds at once. And with the holidays coming up, doing several cards at once would be a huge time saver. So if you're like me and you don't start your cards right away, then that might help. The stencils that they have are the little boxes, the dashed stencil, the bold stripes, the Moroccan tile, and the dotted. The first cards that I make, I'm going to be using the little boxes stencil, and they're going to be rainbow cards. So I'm taking my distress ink and my makeup brush, my oval makeup brush, and just spreading the color straight across the card. I'm not doing a great deal of blending because I'm going to be doing kind of like a watercolor background, so it's not going, you're not going to be able to tell whether the colors are blended nicely together or not. So after I go ahead and get my color down, I take my water bottle and just spritz the stencil, and then I take my piece of my card panel, which is a piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock, and I lay that down onto the stencil. And then, as you can see, it creates this beautiful watercolor effect. And then for the sentiment for this card, I am using this die by the Stamp Market. It's a dotted hello die. And so I've run that through my die cut machine. These dotted dies, I believe, are mainly, I've seen them used for kind of like doing some stitching. So if I had some thread, I could have stitched, but I didn't do that. So I just took some yellow stickles and kind of put them in. It doesn't turn out the best because I should have maybe raised the panel up off the cardstock so you could see the hello better, but I know it's really hard to see on the card what it even says. Like, I know because I know what it says, but yeah. I think the background is really pretty though, so. The sentiment for that one, let's see. It's called Sentiment Strips, and it's by Altenew. So for the next card, I'm doing another rainbow, and this time I'm going to use these stencil brushes by scrapbook.com. When I first saw these have been out for a while, but when I first saw them, I thought they would be stiff. If you have the tonic brushes, you know how like wiry those brushes are. They're very hard, I guess. I don't know how to explain it. But these stencil brushes they're almost like hair. They're very soft. And I was surprised that they were so soft. I guess I was expecting them to be rough like the stencil brushes. So once I'm done putting the color down onto my card panel, which this is a Bristol Smooth cardstock card panel, which is what I use most of the time. So after I have all of the color blended through the stencil, I remove the stencil and then take the same colors and go back over the squares, just maybe not so dark, a little bit lighter, so that you have basically the color through the stencil and then the color as a solid background. And then once I've completed doing that, I'm going to go ahead and use, for the die cuts that are on the card, I use the Altenew Spring Daisy, and I stamp those up with my Kaisercraft inks. Here I'm just splattering water and then picking that water up, or that color up, with a paper towel. And then I also use this shimmer spray and just kind of drop the color on there. The sentiment for this card was, let's see, Honeybee Stamps, and the sentiment is called Truly Great Friend. And I just heat emboss that in black on a piece of vellum, and that will complete that card. For the next card, this is my favorite one using this stencil, and I'm going to use my Kaisercraft inks in several different colors. Let's see. So the colors I use, this one is lipstick, and I'm taking my finger daubers, and I'm just going to go in a diagonal across my card panel. But the colors that I use are lipstick, burnt orange, amber, fern, blue haze, peacock, and grape. And like I said, I'm just going across the card in a diagonal, I kind of tried to plan this one out so I got kind of the same width of color. And then I'm going to use this Nuvo Moonstone, I believe is what it's called. Let's see. Moonstone Glimmer Paste. And I'm just taking my craft knife and spreading that over the stencil. And this dries clear but with a sparkle, so you can still see the color underneath. And I just think it's such a beautiful effect. And then the sentiment for this card is just a die that's been stacked. Probably, I think I used about 3. It's Altenew die, and it's called Friend. So the sentiment is here for you, friend. And then I just used a little green heart from my stash. The next card I'm going to be using, or the next several cards actually, I'm going to be using these shimmer powders. Is that what they're called? Yeah, shimmer powders by Nuvo. And so I'm taking my card panel and I'm just wetting that with my spray bottle, and then I'm putting, I know that I used Blue Blitz and Lunar Rocket, and then one of the greens, I'm not sure what green color that is though. But they are Nuvo shimmer powders, and they don't have a huge amount of colors out right now. I think maybe 10 or so. So I actually make 2 cards with the leftover liquid that ends up on my craft mat. And so once I'm done with this panel, I go ahead and take a piece of craft plastic. I just was kind of experimenting a little bit, so I took a piece of craft plastic, but before I do that, I used a little bit of the Marabou Rainbow alcohol ink because it gives such a beautiful shine. So here I take a piece of craft plastic, and I don't know what I'm doing. I just messing around, I think. I didn't want to waste all that liquid on my craft mat. And so I went ahead and just dropped that on another panel, which is going to be, end up being another card. But I was kind of just dropping it on, and then I just ended up turning it over and just smushing it against the other to get the color off. So the panel on the right side is the one that I am creating the card out of. And the other I don't do anything with. I don't think I created a card out of the craft plastic piece. I was just kind of seeing if the color would dry, and it does. It does dry because you can use Yupo and craft plastic for watercoloring, so it will dry. And then I take my Lindy's blue in my Lindy's. I'm not sure, I'm sorry, about what color that is. And I sprinkle that onto the card panel that I'm going to use. And then I'm just going to set it up because it's warped a little bit. So I end up just setting it straight up and down. And it kind of drips the ink down, which gives it a cool effect. And then I switched back over to the panel which I had put the Marabou Rainbow on, and I'm using the Moroccan stencil and some golden matte gel. And I will create a card out of that. And then for this card I am using the dashed die. Not die, that's not a die, Jen. The dashed stencil. And then I'm going to use the snowflake paste from Affinibar and do kind of some random swipes across there. It's not a solid effect, it's just kind of a little bit here and there. And I really love how that turned out. The stencil is really cool, and then I love the background. So with the one that I did with the Moroccan stencil, I went ahead and created that first card. And then this next card I used a piece of vellum and some Kaiser Craft stamps to do the floral pattern, and then some items from my stash. And then I did another card using the Moroccan stencil since you couldn't really see it on the previous card. And I just took some Wendy Vecchi watering can ink, the same Daisy stamp set from Altenew, the label Love is the happy birthday from Altenew. And I had already had that flower colored from a previous project, and I didn't use it, and so it was there, and I thought it worked good with the background, so I went ahead and used it. So for this next card, I'm using the Big and Bold. Is that what it's called? Big and Bold. Let's see. It's called Bold Stripes. And I'm using my Tombow markers. And so I've set the stencil down on my panel. And I'm just coloring the two ends. And then taking my my watercolor brush and spreading the color into the middle. And then once I'm done with that, I'll go ahead and dry it. And then move the stencil slightly so that I get a thinner line on the card. And then I'll take those same three colors, and the colors that I used for this card in the Tombows are 055, 873, and 673. I'm trying to get better at making sure that I notate the colors so that when I do the video, you know exactly what colors I used. But I saw this color combination somewhere or something similar, and so I thought it would be perfect for this card. It's kind of, I think it looks like a great card for like a young child or a baby. It ends up being a happy birthday card, but I love this little giraffe. I usually don't do cards that are cute, I guess, but I love the way this turned out, and I love that little giraffe. It's so adorable. That's a penny black stamp, and it's called High Tower, I believe, or something like that. Happy Heights. I just used some little bling from my stash and a piece of vellum and a Pink Fresh Studios rectangle die to cut out that frame. So for the last card, I am using this dotted die, and I am taking some Distress inks. The Distress inks that I use, I wanted to make sure that I got these because I used two different sets. So the first combo I use, so this is Antique Linen, and I do it through the stencil. And then when I take out the stencil, I use Tattered Rose and Shabby Shutters just to kind of very lightly fill in the background. And then I go ahead and set the stencil back on my panel, and I dry emboss that, which is just basically running it through my die cut machine to give it a raised effect. And then the second set of Distress inks that I use are Dried Marigold and Wild Honey. And the second set is coloring a totally different panel. I used one for my base on my card, and then I created another dotted panel to die cut the flowers out. So that is this panel right here. And so I take some Tim Holtz dies and I cut several flowers out. I end up only using one. And I also cut this frame that you can see in the background. I didn't end up using that. The sentiment that I use on this card is a Catherine Pooler stamp, and it's called Sunshine Flowers, I believe. And that is just heat embossed. And then the tool that I use to blend this is a scrapbook.com blending tool that's brand new. The thing that's different about this blending tool is that it has a domed top, which means it's curved instead of straight. So you don't have those harsh lines that you can get with a straight blending tool. Another thing I like about the tool is that it does not easily, the felt doesn't separate from the blending tool itself, which is a problem I've had with some other tools, and so I absolutely love that also. It makes it very easy to take the foam piece off. And if you're like me, that doesn't have a tool for every color, it is very important that that does not separate. So I hope you liked this video. If you liked it or found it informative, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up. I appreciate all your comments. So let me know what card was your favorite, which you didn't really like. If you had any questions or comments, please go ahead and leave them below. My links are in the description, and I'll catch you later.